I challenge you to find a better project management tool than the one you already have. Microsoft Teams. Most people spend thousands on specialized software when the solution is right in front of them. By the end of this video, you'll know how to track tasks, visualize progress, manage files, and coordinate deadlines, all without leaving Teams. If you can implement even half of what I show you today, I guarantee your next project will run more smoothly than ever before. The project management chaos problem. Have you ever felt like your team projects are spiraling out of control even though you're using Microsoft Teams? You're not alone. I've worked with countless teams who have all the right tools but still struggle to keep projects on track. What's interesting is that having Microsoft Teams doesn't automatically solve your project management problems. In fact, it can sometimes make things feel even more chaotic if you're not using it strategically. Let's be real for a moment. There's a significant disconnect happening for many Teams users right now. You have this powerful platform at your fingertips, but somehow projects still feel messy and disorganized. It's like having a sports car but not knowing how to drive it properly. You've got all that potential just sitting there unused while you're still struggling to get where you need to go. Picture this common scenario. Your team is working on an important project in Teams. Everyone's chatting, sharing updates, and uploading files. On the surface, it seems like you're communicating well. But beneath that surface, there's a growing problem. Files are being scattered across various channels with no clear organization. Team members are missing deadlines simply because they didn't know when something was due. And there's constant confusion about priorities. Who should be working on what and what needs to happen next? What started as a tool meant to organize your team has ironically become a place where information gets buried. That document someone shared 3 weeks ago, good luck finding it now. It's somewhere in the chat history, mixed in with hundreds of messages about other topics. That important decision that changed the project scope, it was mentioned in a meeting, but where's the record of it? And that deadline change? Well, only half the team seem to get the memo. This isn't just frustrating, it's actively hurting your productivity and results. The typical team member now spends nearly 20% of their work week just hunting for information or figuring out who knows what. That's almost an entire day each week wasted on searching instead of doing. When you multiply that across your entire team, the cost in lost productivity becomes staggering. I recently worked with a project manager named Maya, who was completely baffled by her team's performance issues. From her perspective, she was doing everything right. She had created a Teams workspace, she was posting regular updates, and she had shared all the necessary files. She couldn't understand why deadlines were still being missed and why team members kept saying they were confused about what to do next. When we dug deeper, the problem became clear. Maya thought she was organized because she knew where everything was, but that was only because she was the one who had posted it all. From her team's perspective, finding information was like trying to solve a puzzle. Was that file in the general channel, or was it in last week's meeting chat? Was that deadline mentioned in a conversation thread, or was it somewhere in the project document? Without a clear structure, team members were spending their valuable time playing detective instead of doing their actual work. This type of chaos affects more than just efficiency. It impacts the entire project outcome and team morale. When team members can't easily find what they need, stress levels rise. The constant feeling of being out of the loop or missing something important creates anxiety. Deadlines get missed not because people don't care, but because the information about those deadlines was buried or unclear. The quality of work suffers because people are rushing to catch up rather than focusing on delivering excellence. And the entire project can fall behind schedule or over budget simply due to these communication and organization failures. What makes this situation particularly frustrating is that it's completely avoidable. The issue isn't with Microsoft Teams itself, it's a powerful platform with all the capabilities you need. The real problem is in how projects are structured within Teams. Without a thoughtful approach to organization, even the best tool becomes ineffective. Think about your kitchen at home for a moment. You could have top-of-the-line appliances and premium ingredients, but if there's no system for where things go, if pots are stacked haphazardly, spices are scattered randomly, and ingredients are shoved wherever they fit, cooking becomes a stressful treasure hunt instead of an enjoyable process. The same principle applies to your project in Teams. Without structure, it becomes a digital junk drawer rather than a streamlined work environment. The good news is that there's a systematic approach that can transform how your team uses Microsoft Teams. By implementing the right structure and practices, you can turn Teams from a chaotic chat tool into a true project command center where information is organized, accessible, and actionable. I've seen teams completely turn around their project outcomes by making relatively simple changes to how they structure their team's workspace. These aren't complicated technical changes that require special expertise. They're strategic organizing principles that anyone can implement. With the right approach, you can make information easy to find, deadlines clear to everyone, and priorities transparent across the team. Here's what you need to understand. When projects fall behind or team members seem confused, the root cause isn't usually lack of effort or commitment. It's not even lack of communication. In fact, most teams are communicating constantly throughout the day. The real issue is structural. It's about how that communication is organized and how information is stored and accessed. What's causing your team to miss deadlines even when using Teams? It's not the tool itself, but how you're structuring your project within it. The difference between Teams as just another chat app and Teams as a powerful project management hub comes down to organization. Having a deliberate structure for channels, files, conversations, and tasks that makes sense for your specific project needs. File management sabotage. Let's talk about file management because that structure we just discussed extends deeply into how we handle documents in Teams. Here's something surprising. Your files aren't just disappearing into the void, they're being actively hidden by practices that almost everyone is guilty of. Even organized project managers are shocked when they discover they've been making their own documents nearly impossible to find. When I work with teams struggling with Microsoft Teams, I often ask them to find a specific document we discussed 2 weeks ago. The panic that sets in is immediate. They start frantically scrolling through conversation threads, opening multiple channels, and eventually resort to the search function, which returns dozens of similarly named files. This isn't just frustrating, it's costing your team real productivity. The first file management mistake happens when you upload documents directly into channel conversations. It seems convenient in the moment you're discussing a topic and want to share a relevant file. With just a few clicks, you've attached it to your message. Problem solved, right? Not exactly. Fast forward 2 weeks when someone needs that document again. It's now buried under hundreds of messages, practically invisible unless someone remembers exactly when it was shared and by whom. This common practice turns your team's environment into a digital black hole where important files vanish into the conversation stream, never to be easily found again. The second mistake is creating duplicate files across multiple channels. I recently worked with a marketing team where their campaign brief existed in 7 different versions across 4 different channels. When it came time to finalize their strategy, team members had been making changes to different versions, creating a nightmare scenario of conflicting information. No one knew which version was current, which edits needed to be incorporated, or who had the final say. This duplication doesn't just create confusion. It actively undermines the collaborative benefits Teams is supposed to provide. Instead of having a single source of truth, you end up with multiple competing versions that waste time and create errors. The third mistake that sabotages file management is the lack of consistent naming conventions. Without standardization, finding files becomes a guessing game. Is it Q3 marketing budget final or marketing budget Q3's final or perhaps budget Q3 marketing V2? This inconsistency forces team members to open multiple files just to find the one they need, slowing down workflows and creating frustration. When everyone uses their own personal naming system, the collective file structure becomes chaotic and unreliable. Let me share a real example that illustrates the impact of improved file management. A product development team I consulted with was constantly missing deadlines despite using Teams for all their communication. After analyzing their workflow, we discovered team members were spending an average of 5.5 hours per week just searching for files. That's nearly 70% of an entire workday lost to digital hide and seek. We implemented a structured file system with clear naming conventions and proper folder organization. The result? Their file finding time dropped to less than 30 minutes per week. That simple change gave each team member back 5 hours of productive time weekly, the equivalent of reclaiming more than half a workday. The solution to these file management problems is hiding in plain sight within Teams. When you create a channel in Microsoft Teams, it automatically creates a corresponding SharePoint site behind the scenes. This integration is powerful but underutilized. Instead of dropping files into conversations, you should be using the Files tab at the top of each channel. This tab connects directly to SharePoint, giving you access to proper folder structures, version history, and metadata, all the tools you need for organized file management. Creating a logical folder structure within the Files tab is crucial. Start by establishing a consistent approach across all your project channels. For example, create numbered folders like 01 admin and 02 meeting recordings to keep things in a logical order. This numbering trick ensures folders appear in the sequence you want, not alphabetically. Within each main folder, create subfolders that further organize your content by type, phase, or department. This hierarchical structure creates clear pathways to information, eliminating the need for endless scrolling and searching. You can further enhance your file organization by adding metadata columns. Within the Files tab, you can create custom fields like owner, status, or due date that make sorting and filtering files incredibly efficient. For instance, if you need to find all documents owned by Sarah that are due next week, a simple filter will display exactly what you need in seconds rather than minutes of manual searching. Setting up a proper file structure takes a small upfront investment, but pays massive dividends throughout your project. Consider this. If your 5-person team saves just 30 minutes each per week looking for files, a conservative estimate, that's 2.5 hours of collective productivity gained weekly or 130 hours annually. That's more than 3 full work weeks reclaimed just by organizing your files properly. Proper file management also dramatically reduces version control issues. When everyone knows exactly where to find and save files, the problem of duplicate versions diminishes. Teams' built-in co-authoring features mean multiple people can work on the same document simultaneously, with all changes tracked and saved automatically. This eliminates the need to create multiple copies and merge changes later, streamlining your entire workflow. Another advantage of using the Files tab properly is that it makes documents accessible even when you're not in Teams. Since these files live in SharePoint, team members can access them directly through SharePoint or OneDrive if needed, providing flexibility without sacrificing organization. This becomes particularly valuable when working with stakeholders who may not have full Teams access, but still need to review project documents. Let's be clear about what's at stake. Poor file management isn't just an annoyance, it's a project killer. When critical information is scattered, buried, or duplicated, decisions are delayed, mistakes multiply, and deadlines slip. The most carefully planned project can unravel simply because team members can't reliably find what they need when they need it. The good news is that fixing this problem doesn't require additional software or complex technical skills. It simply requires a deliberate approach to using the tools already built into Microsoft Teams. By creating a thoughtful file structure, establishing clear naming conventions, and training your team to use the Files tab instead of chat attachments, you can transform a chaotic document swamp into a well-organized information system that supports your project rather than sabotaging it. Task tracking without leaving Teams. Imagine never having to ask, what's everyone working on? Again. While most project managers are drowning in a sea of disconnected tools and constant context switching, there's a built-in solution that keeps all your task management centralized without ever leaving the team's environment. Studies show professionals lose up to 40% of their productivity just from switching between different applications, a problem that's completely avoidable with the right approach. Let's be honest. Keeping track of who's doing what across your project can feel like herding cats. You've got team members working on multiple deliverables, deadlines approaching from all directions, and the constant pressure to know exactly where everything stands. The traditional approach has been using separate task management tools alongside Teams, but this creates a fragmented workflow that's costing your team valuable time and mental energy. Think about your current process. You might be using a task management app like Trello, Asana, or even traditional project management software. Meanwhile, your team discussions are happening in Teams. When someone mentions a task update in a Teams conversation, that information isn't automatically reflected in your task management system. It gets buried in the chat history, creating a disconnect between what's being discussed and what's being tracked. Every time team members need to update or check on a task, they're forced to switch contexts, jumping from Teams to another application and back again. This switching doesn't just waste seconds, it disrupts the mental flow that's essential for focused work. And when information lives in multiple places, team members inevitably miss updates or work with outdated information. But what if I told you Microsoft Teams already has powerful task management capabilities built right in? Many Teams users completely overlook these features, continuing to juggle multiple tools when everything they need is already available in their primary workspace. The game changer here is Microsoft Planner and its integration directly within Teams. This isn't just a basic to-do list, it's a visual task management system that functions as a Kanban board right inside your Teams channels. Planner allows you to create, assign, and track tasks without ever leaving the Teams environment, keeping all project information in one centralized location. Let me show you how this works in practice. Within any Teams channel, you can add a Planner tab that creates a dedicated space for task management. This board uses buckets to logically categorize similar tasks, giving you a visual organization system that makes project status clear at a glance. For teams just getting started with project management methodologies, Planner provides the perfect entry point with simple Kanban boards using columns for to do, in progress, and done. What makes this integration particularly powerful is the level of detail you can add to each task. You can assign tasks to specific team members, set due dates, add priority levels, and track progress, all within the Teams interface. The color coding and labeling options make it easy to quickly identify task categories, priorities, or departments at a glance. Need to break down complex tasks into manageable steps? Planner lets you add checklists to any task, creating a visual representation of progress that helps team members track completion of individual steps. This feature is invaluable for ensuring nothing falls through the cracks on multi-stage deliverables. The real magic happens in the collaboration features within each task. Team members can add attachments directly to tasks, ensuring that relevant documents are always connected to the work they support. The comments section allows for task-specific discussions, keeping conversations focused and preventing important details from getting lost in general channel chatter. For project managers who need to maintain oversight across multiple work streams, Planner's different views are a revelation. The board view gives you that classic Kanban visualization, but you can also switch to a grid view for a more structured list format or a schedule view to see tasks laid out across a timeline. This flexibility accommodates different working styles and information needs across your team. Perhaps the most underutilized feature is Planner's charts view, which provides a visual dashboard of your project's status. These charts give you instant insight into task distribution, helping you identify which team members might be overloaded and which aspects of the project are receiving sufficient attention. You can visualize your project schedule on a month-to-month or week-by-week basis, getting a clear picture of completion rates and potential delays before they become problems. The notes section in each task allows for detailed descriptions, including the purpose, deliverables, and definition of done. This clarity ensures everyone understands exactly what's expected, reducing misunderstandings and the need for clarification meetings. When a team member opens a task, they have all the context they need to take action immediately. What's particularly powerful about this integration is how it creates a single source of truth for your project. No more discrepancies between what's discussed in meetings and what's recorded in your task system. No more information silos where critical updates get trapped in email threads or direct messages. Everything lives in one place, accessible to everyone who needs it. Think about how this transforms daily workflows. Team members start their day in Teams, check their assigned tasks, and update progress all without switching applications. When questions arise about a specific task, the discussion happens directly on that task card, with all relevant stakeholders notified automatically. When files are updated, they're attached to the relevant task, ensuring everyone works with the most current version. For newly onboarded team members, this centralized approach dramatically reduces ramp-up time. Instead of learning multiple systems, they need only understand Teams and its integrated tools. All project history, task dependencies, and status information is immediately accessible, allowing them to get up to speed quickly and contribute meaningfully from day one. The benefits extend beyond just saving time on context switching. This integrated approach fundamentally improves collaboration quality. When task information is always accessible in the same place where discussions occur, team members make more informed contributions. They can reference specific tasks in channel conversations, linking directly to the relevant card, to ensure everyone is literally on the same page. Implementation is straightforward. Start by adding a Planner tab to your project channel, then create buckets that reflect your workflow stages or work categories. Begin with just the essential tasks to avoid overwhelming the board, then gradually build out your complete project structure. Establish conventions for task naming, labeling, and priority assignment to ensure consistency across the team. The key to success is getting everyone to adopt this centralized approach. Make it clear that task updates should happen in Planner, not just in chat messages. Demonstrate how much easier it is to find information when it's properly organized in the task system rather than buried in conversation threads. Show team members how they benefit directly from having all project information in one place. Automating status updates. While centralized task management solves half the productivity puzzle, your team is likely still spending precious hours each week in status meetings that could be dramatically shortened or eliminated altogether. According to research, the average professional spends nearly 8 hours each week just providing status updates. That's a full day of work spent talking about work instead of actually doing it. Think about it. How much of your team's collective brain power is being consumed by these repetitive reporting rituals? Let's be honest about what happens in most project environments. Team members type up progress notes before meetings. Then everyone takes turns saying, "Here's what I've done," while others pretend to listen, but are actually finishing their own updates or checking email. The meeting host frantically takes notes, trying to capture it all, and inevitably someone important is missing from the meeting, so the whole process needs to be repeated later. This manual approach to status reporting isn't just tedious, it's actually harmful to your project in subtle but significant ways. First, these updates are wildly inconsistent. Some team members provide exhaustive details of every minute of their day, while others offer vague one-liners that tell you nothing useful. The quality of information varies dramatically depending on who's reporting and how much time they had to prepare. Manual updates are also notoriously incomplete. People forget what they worked on earlier in the week, or they strategically omit mentioning the tasks they haven't made progress on. And when updates are delivered verbally in meetings, there's no permanent record unless someone takes detailed notes, which rarely captures everything accurately. Perhaps most problematic is the delay factor. If you're having weekly status meetings, team members might be sitting on important updates for days. A blocker that emerged on Tuesday might not be surfaced until Friday's meeting, costing the team valuable resolution time. These information delays ripple throughout your project timeline, pushing out deadlines and creating downstream impacts that weren't necessary. This is where Microsoft Teams reveals one of its most powerful but underutilized features, its seamless integration with Power Automate. This combination transforms how project information flows, ensuring everyone stays informed without the constant manual input and status meetings eating away at your productive hours. Power Automate works like a digital assistant that never sleeps, monitoring your projects and proactively notifying your team about important developments. Rather than waiting for someone to manually report what's happening, you can set up automated flows that post updates to your team's channels whenever significant events occur. Let me show you how this actually works in practice. Imagine you've set up a flow that monitors your planner tasks. When a team member marks a task as complete, Power Automate can instantly post a message to your project channel. Marketing materials have been finalized by Jamie. Everyone immediately knows the task is done. No meeting required, no email needed, no manual reporting. You can also create flows that provide early warnings. When a deadline is approaching, an automated message can alert the team. Attention team, the client presentation is due in 48 hours and is currently 75% complete. This gives everyone visibility into what needs attention without someone having to manually track and report it. Milestone achievements can be celebrated automatically too. When the last task in a particular project phase is completed, a flow can post, "Phase 1 is now complete. All 24 tasks have been finished, moving to Phase 2. This keeps everyone aligned on the project's progression without someone needing to compile and communicate that information. These automated updates don't just save time, they fundamentally change how information flows through your project. Instead of information being pushed out at predetermined intervals, like weekly meetings, it flows continuously as events actually happen. This means blockers get addressed faster, achievements get recognized immediately, and everyone maintains a current understanding of project status. The beauty of this approach is that it scales without adding overhead. In traditional project management, as your team grows, so does the time spent on status reporting. With 5 team members, a round-robin update might take 15 minutes. With 15 members, it could consume an hour or more. But automated status updates take the same amount of time, regardless of team size, 0 minutes of human effort. Setting up these automations is surprisingly straightforward. You don't need to be a developer or have technical skills. Power Automate uses a visual interface where you can select triggers, like when a task is marked complete, and actions, like post a message to Teams. Microsoft provides templates for common scenarios, so you can often start with a pre-built flow and customize it to your needs. Here's a practical example. Create a flow that monitors your Planner board. Select the trigger. When a task is marked complete in Planner, then choose the action Post a message in Teams. In the message template, you can include dynamic content like the task name, who completed it, and when. The whole setup takes less than 5 minutes, but saves countless hours over the life of your project. You can build more sophisticated flows too. For instance, if a high-priority task hasn't been started 3 days before its deadline, an automated message could tag the assigned person and their supervisor. Or if multiple related tasks are completed on the same day, a summary post could consolidate them into a single update rather than flooding your channel with separate notifications. The real power comes when you connect multiple Microsoft tools. For example, when a client approves a document in SharePoint, Power Automate can update the associated task in Planner and notify the team in the relevant Teams channel, all automatically. This creates a seamless information ecosystem where manual status reporting becomes almost entirely unnecessary. Early adopters of this approach report dramatic reductions in meeting time. One project manager I worked with cut their team's status meetings from 90 minutes to 15 minutes per week by implementing automated updates. That's over an hour of productive time returned to each team member every week, more than 50 hours across the team each month. Beyond the time savings, there's also a quality improvement in the information itself. Automated updates are consistent, complete, and immediate. They capture exactly what happened when it happened without any subjective filtering or delays. This creates a more accurate picture of project status and enables faster, better informed decisions. Of course, automation doesn't eliminate the need for all meetings. You'll still want to gather for strategic discussions, problem solving, and team building. But automation handles the routine status reporting that consumes so much of those meetings, allowing you to focus your valuable face-to-face time on more meaningful conversations. The transition to automated status updates does require some change management. Team members accustomed to verbal reporting may need encouragement to use the task management system consistently, since the automations only work when people actually update their tasks in Planner. But once they experience the benefits, less time in meetings, less manual reporting, and more visibility, adoption typically accelerates. Integrations for project visibility. Now that we've streamlined your status updates with automation, let's address a common challenge that affects nearly every project team. Your marketing manager needs to see campaign timelines, your executives want budget metrics, and your developers are tracking technical milestones. Without a central view of project data, these different needs create information silos that lead to confusion and disconnected efforts. Think about your last project meeting where someone said, "I didn't know we were working on that," or "I thought that deadline had changed." These moments aren't just frustrating, they're symptoms of poor project visibility that can seriously impact your outcomes. When team members can't see the complete picture, they make decisions based on incomplete information. Your developers might be racing to finish features that marketing doesn't even plan to highlight in the next release. Your executives might be making resource decisions without understanding the technical challenges your team is facing. These visibility gaps don't just slow you down, they actively pull your project in different directions. Microsoft Teams actually offers a powerful solution to this visibility problem through its integration capabilities. Rather than forcing you to create separate reports for each stakeholder group, Teams can become a central hub where everyone sees exactly what they need without you doing extra work. Let's look at how Power BI dashboards transform project visibility when embedded within Teams. Instead of sending static reports that are outdated the moment you share them, Power BI brings your project data to life right within your Teams channels. Your team members can interact with real-time data directly in the platform they're already using for communication. Imagine being able to monitor key performance indicators, track progress against goals, and identify potential roadblocks, all without leaving Teams. This integration creates a powerful connection between your project discussions and the data driving your decisions. When someone asks about the status of a particular milestone in a meeting, you can simply refer to the dashboard that everyone can see, eliminating those frustrating, "I'll get back to you with that information" moments. The real magic happens when team members can filter and explore this data based on their specific needs. Your marketing team can focus on campaign metrics, while your development team examines technical progress indicators, all from the same dashboard. This self-service approach to project data means everyone gets the insights they need without you becoming the bottleneck for information. But Power BI is just one piece of the integration puzzle. Teams also works seamlessly with Microsoft Forms to gather structured feedback from stakeholders or team members. Rather than scrolling through endless chat messages trying to collect input, a strategically placed Forms tab can organize feedback in a way that's easy to analyze and act upon. The integration capabilities extend well beyond Microsoft's own tools. Teams connects with popular project management platforms like Jira, Monday, and Trello, bringing that data directly into your team's workspace. This means your team doesn't need to jump between different systems to understand what's happening with the project. Let me show you how this works in practice. By adding a tab to your project channel, you can embed a Jira board that automatically reflects the current state of development tasks. Your team members can see ticket status, assignments, and priorities without leaving the team's environment where they're already collaborating. This elimination of context switching not only saves time, but also ensures everyone is working from the most current information. What's particularly powerful about these integrations is how they transform the way project information flows. Instead of information being pushed out through reports and presentations, it becomes a living, breathing part of your team's digital workspace. When someone joins a channel, they don't just see conversations, they see the actual project data that gives those conversations context. The Files tab is another often overlooked integration point that significantly enhances project visibility. It serves as a centralized repository for all project-related documents, ensuring everyone has access to the information they need. Any files shared in channel conversations are automatically stored here, creating a self-organizing system that keeps important documents from getting lost. What makes this feature particularly useful is the ability to add custom metadata to files. For example, you can add an owner column to track who's responsible for each document. This simple enhancement makes the files section much more than just storage. It becomes an integral part of your project tracking system. These integrations work together to eliminate the blind spots that typically plague project management. When information is scattered across multiple systems, it's easy to miss important signals or fail to connect related data points. By bringing everything into Teams, you create a complete picture that reveals those connections and prevents the misalignments that lead to wasted effort. Consider how this approach changes the dynamics of project management. Instead of you being the information gatekeeper, constantly collecting and distributing updates, Teams becomes a self-service platform where team members can access what they need when they need it. This shift not only saves you time, but also empowers your team to be more proactive and informed. The visibility benefits extend to decision-making as well. When everyone can see the same data, conversations become more productive. Rather than debating what the current status is, your team can focus on what actions to take based on that status. This data-driven approach leads to better decisions and faster progress toward your goals. Implementation doesn't have to be complicated. Start by identifying the key metrics and information sources that matter most to your project. Then add relevant tabs to your team's channels to bring that data front and center. The technical process is straightforward, usually just a few clicks to connect an existing system or embed a dashboard. The real challenge is often cultural rather than technical. Team members accustomed to receiving reports might need encouragement to actively engage with these integrated data sources. Make it a habit to reference the shared dashboards during meetings, pointing team members to specific visualizations rather than verbally summarizing information. This consistent reinforcement helps establish new routines that maximize the value of your integrated project hub. As your team becomes more comfortable with this approach, you'll notice a shift in how information flows. Questions that once required you to compile reports can be answered with a simple link to the relevant dashboard. Updates that used to require meetings can happen asynchronously as team members check the latest data. This efficiency gain compounds over time, creating significant productivity improvements across your project lifecycle. Remember that visibility isn't just about having data available, it's about making that data meaningful and actionable. Use the visualization capabilities of tools like Power BI to highlight trends, exceptions, and relationships that might not be obvious in raw data. Color coding, conditional formatting, and thoughtful organization of information make it easier for team members to understand what they're seeing and what it means for their work. Organizing project communication. Thoughtful organization doesn't just apply to your data, it's even more crucial for your team's communication. Did you know that 65% of project delays stem from communication breakdowns where important messages simply get lost in the noise? Let's look at how strategic channel planning in teams can transform how your project information flows. We've all been there, scrolling endlessly through a busy Teams channel, trying to find that one important update about a deadline change or a client requirement. Your beautifully organized files and dashboards are only part of the solution if team members can't find the messages that provide context for those assets. The real challenge lies in how information moves through your project ecosystem. Think about your current team's setup. Is it a single catch-all channel where everything from casual greetings to critical decisions gets mixed together? This approach might seem simple at first, but it quickly becomes unmanageable as your project progresses. Important messages scroll off the screen within minutes, buried beneath GIFs, quick questions, and other day-to-day chatter. Team members miss critical updates, ask the same questions repeatedly, and sometimes make decisions based on outdated information simply because they couldn't find the latest update. This communication chaos affects more than just your inbox. It impacts your entire project execution. When team members miss important updates, they work with incorrect assumptions. I've seen marketing teams create entire campaigns based on outdated product specifications because a key message got lost in a busy channel. The ripple effects of these communication breakdowns can be costly, pushing deadlines and creating rework that could have been avoided with better organization. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires intentional design. Think of your team's environment as a physical office space. You wouldn't hold all conversations, from sensitive HR discussions to casual lunch planning, in the same room. The same principle applies to your digital workspace. A clear channel structure with purpose-built spaces for different communication types helps everyone know exactly where to go for specific information. Start by reimagining your channel structure, that default general channel that Teams creates. Consider renaming it to All to clearly indicate it's where everyone comes together. This becomes your project hub, the central space where announcements affect everyone. Don't stop there. For any project, beyond the simplest ones, you'll want to create additional channels organized by topic or function. For example, a website redesign project might have separate channels for content strategy, user experience, visual design, and development. Each channel becomes a focused space where conversations stay on topic and relevant team members can easily follow along. This focused approach prevents the cognitive overload that happens when team members try to filter through dozens of unrelated messages to find the ones that matter to them. When it comes to keeping everyone informed about important updates, leverage the built-in notification features strategically. Use the @channel or @all mentions to flag messages that everyone should see. For posts that require even more visibility, use the announcements feature, which gives your message a headline and makes it stand out visually in the channel. Think of announcements as the digital equivalent of standing up in a meeting room and getting everyone's attention, a tool that loses its impact if overused. Beyond just creating channels, establish clear communication protocols for your team. One of the most effective approaches is to keep all project-related conversations within the appropriate Teams channels rather than spreading them across private chats. This might feel inefficient at first. After all, isn't it quicker to just message someone directly? But this seemingly small change has profound impacts on project transparency and knowledge sharing. When conversations happen in channels, everyone benefits from the information exchanged. New team members can scroll back through channel history to get up to speed. Someone who was out sick doesn't miss critical context. And importantly, you avoid the common scenario where key decisions are made in private conversations that aren't documented anywhere for the broader team. The Posts tab within each channel becomes your primary communication hub for organized conversations. This is where updates are shared, questions are asked, and feedback is provided. To make sure everyone sees important messages, remember to use the character to notify specific individuals or the entire channel. This simple technique helps bring attention to critical announcements and ensures team members don't miss updates that might affect their work. For larger projects with many moving parts, consider creating a dedicated decisions channel. This becomes the single source of truth for all project decisions, eliminating the common complaint of, "When was that decided?" Or "I didn't know we had changed direction on that." Whenever a decision is made, whether in a meeting, a channel conversation, or via email, someone posts a summary in the decisions channel, creating a searchable archive of every project choice. Similarly, a technical discussions channel can provide space for deeper, more specialized conversations that might overwhelm team members who don't need that level of detail. The key is to match your channel structure to your project's communication needs while keeping it intuitive enough that team members instinctively know where to post different types of information. This approach to communication organization does more than just reduce noise. It transforms how your team collaborates. When everyone knows where to find information and where to share updates, the entire project gains momentum. Decisions happen faster because the right people see questions quickly. Onboarding new team members becomes easier because information is logically organized. And perhaps most importantly, the project maintains momentum even during busy periods because critical updates don't get buried. Let me share a quick example. A marketing agency I worked with was struggling with their project communication despite using Teams. They had one channel per client, but all types of communication, from creative brainstorming to billing questions, lived in the same space. By restructuring to include purpose-specific channels for each client, strategy, creative, client communication, and timeline updates, they reported a 40% reduction in repeated questions and significantly improved client satisfaction scores because updates were easier to find and share. The beauty of this approach is its simplicity. You don't need any additional tools or technical skills, just a thoughtful approach to how you structure your team's environment. Start by mapping out the main topics or workflows in your project. Create dedicated channels for each, clearly communicating to your team what types of conversations belong where. Then be consistent in using them. Leadership plays a critical role here. When project managers and team leads model good communication practices, others follow suit. Remember that your channel structure isn't set in stone. As your project evolves, you might find that some channels are too busy while others see little activity. Don't hesitate to refine your approach, adding new channels or consolidating underused ones. The goal is to create a communication environment that feels intuitive and helpful, not rigid and bureaucratic, and running effective project meetings in teams. Now that you've optimized your team's channels, let's tackle the productivity black hole that consumes nearly 25% of every project manager's week: meetings. While your perfectly structured communication environment looks great on paper, most teams still waste valuable time during live discussions, trying to figure out who's taking notes or wondering what was actually decided by the end. The good news? Microsoft Teams has quietly built meeting capabilities that transform these time drains into productive sessions, all without forcing you to leave your project workspace. Think about your last project meeting. How much time did you spend searching for the agenda beforehand? How many decisions or action items disappeared into the ether because nobody captured them properly? In a typical organization, these inefficiencies add up to hours of lost productivity every week. The problem isn't meetings themselves, it's how disconnected they are from your project infrastructure. You've probably experienced the meeting amnesia phenomenon, where important decisions are made, only to be forgotten or disputed later because there's no clear record. Or perhaps you've dealt with the post-meeting scramble, where team members rush to document what happened before details fade from memory. These disjointed experiences create significant gaps in your project workflow. Traditional meetings suffer from a fundamental flaw. They exist as isolated events rather than integrated parts of your project management system. When your meeting notes live in personal OneNote notebooks, or worse, handwritten notebooks, they become information islands that the rest of your team can't easily access. This disconnection means that crucial context, decisions, and action items often fail to make it into your actual project management system. Teams offers a completely different approach by treating meetings as natural extensions of your project channels. One of the most powerful yet underutilized features is the ability to schedule meetings directly within a project channel. When you do this, something remarkable happens. The meeting automatically inherits the context of that channel, creating a seamless connection between your discussions and your project workspace. Here's how to transform your meetings using Teams integrated features. First, always schedule meetings from within the relevant channel rather than creating them in your calendar. Click the meeting icon at the bottom of your channel, and you'll notice Teams automatically names the meeting based on the channel, invites channel members, and creates a direct link between the meeting and your project space. This simple step ensures your meeting is firmly anchored within your project's digital environment. During the meeting, take advantage of the collaborative notes feature. Rather than having one person frantically type while others talk, Teams allows multiple team members to contribute to meeting notes simultaneously. Open the meeting notes panel during your call, and everyone can add points, highlight decisions, or flag action items in real time. These notes aren't trapped in someone's personal files. They live within the meeting record in your channel, accessible to anyone who needs them later. The recording and transcription capabilities take meeting documentation to another level. With a single click, you can capture the entire discussion, complete with an automatic transcript that makes specific moments searchable. Imagine never again having to ask, what exactly did we decide about the timeline? Instead, you can search the transcript for timeline and instantly find every mention of it during the discussion. For action items that emerge during the meeting, Teams offers seamless integration with your task management system. When someone says, I'll handle the client presentation by Friday, you can immediately create a task in the meeting chat that flows directly into your project's task list in Planner. This eliminates the gap between meeting discussions and project execution, ensuring nothing falls through the cracks. The meeting chat serves as another powerful integration point. While email attachments get buried in overflowing inboxes, files shared in the meeting chat automatically save to your channel's Files tab. Reference materials, presentation decks, or impromptu whiteboard sessions all become part of your project's permanent record, organized exactly where they belong. What makes this approach truly transformative is how it creates a seamless workflow before, during, and after meetings. Before your discussion, team members can review channel conversations for context. During the meeting, everyone contributes to documentation in real time. And afterward, all decisions and action items automatically become part of your project's digital environment. No manual transfers or follow-up emails required. The results of this integrated approach can be dramatic. Teams that implement these meeting practices typically report 30% shorter meeting times and 40% fewer follow-up questions after meetings conclude. More importantly, they experience significantly higher implementation rates for decisions made during discussions, as those decisions remain visible and trackable within the project environment. To implement this approach effectively, start by establishing a consistent meeting template that includes agenda items, required preparation, and expected outcomes. Pin this template to your Teams channel so everyone knows the standard format for project discussions. Then commit to using the integrated meeting features rather than falling back on disconnected tools like separate note-taking apps or email for follow-up. Create a quick reference guide for team members that outlines how to use Teams meeting features effectively. Many teams find that a simple checklist helps establish new habits around integrated meetings. Schedule from within the channel. Use collaborative notes during the meeting. Record important discussions for future reference. Create tasks directly from meeting chat. Save all relevant files to the channel. The meeting chat deserves special attention as a powerful but often underutilized tool. Unlike the ephemeral nature of verbal discussions, the meeting chat creates a permanent, searchable record of links, comments, and questions that arise during your meeting. Encourage team members to use the chat actively for sharing resources without interrupting the speaker, asking clarifying questions that might not warrant verbal discussion, or documenting quick decisions that emerge during the conversation. By treating meetings as integrated components of your project management system rather than isolated events, you transform them from necessary evils into productive collaboration sessions. The key is leveraging Teams' native capabilities to connect your synchronous discussions to your asynchronous project workspace, creating a continuous flow of information rather than disconnected pockets of knowledge. Visualizing project progress with Planner. Those integrated meetings provide the foundation for better project communication, but even the best discussions won't save you from the project manager's nightmare. Discovering a critical task is behind schedule when it's already too late. The human brain processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text, yet most project tracking relies on endless lists and text-heavy reports. There's a reason pilots use dashboards instead of spreadsheets when flying planes, and your projects deserve the same visual clarity. Have you ever been surprised by a task that was weeks behind schedule but somehow never appeared on your radar? I call this phenomenon invisible project drift, and it happens because our brains simply aren't wired to process dozens of text-based updates efficiently. When information is buried in endless status emails and spreadsheets, critical bottlenecks remain hidden until they become emergencies. This is where visual project management transforms your ability to keep projects on track. Microsoft Planner, directly integrated within your team's workspace, offers powerful visualization tools that make project status instantly comprehensible. Rather than digging through multiple applications or reports, you can see exactly where your project stands at a glance. This isn't just about convenience, it's about fundamentally changing how quickly you can identify and address potential issues before they derail your timeline. Let me walk you through what makes visual project tracking so transformative. When you're managing complex projects, your brain has to process hundreds of data points simultaneously. Who's working on what, which tasks depend on others, what deadlines are approaching, and where bottlenecks might be forming. Text-based tracking forces your brain to work much harder than necessary, consuming mental bandwidth that could be better used for strategic thinking and problem-solving. The charts view within Planner delivers immediate visual insights that text simply cannot. With a single glance, you can see task distribution across team members, identify which phases of your project are overloaded, and spot potential resource constraints before they cause delays. This visual approach to project management isn't just easier, it's actually aligned with how our brains naturally process information. What's particularly powerful about Planner is that it's not a separate application you need to switch to. It lives right inside your team's workspace. You can add Planner as a tab in any channel, creating a visual project hub that everyone on your team can access without breaking their workflow. This integration eliminates the fragmentation that happens when project information lives in multiple systems, creating what project management experts call a central source of truth for your project status. Let's look at how to set up Planner for maximum visual impact. The first step is customizing your board layout to match your specific project workflow. Unlike rigid project management tools, Planner allows you to create a visual structure that makes sense for your team's unique process. For software teams, you might create columns for ideation, planning, design, and development. Marketing teams might use concept, creation, review, and published. The key is creating visual buckets that map to your actual workflow rather than forcing your process to fit a predetermined structure. One of the most underutilized features in Planner is the label system, which adds another visual dimension to your project tracking. Labels allow you to color code tasks based on department, priority, or any other important categorization. For example, you might use blue labels for tasks belonging to the PMO group, red for high-priority items, and green for quick wins. This creates an instant visual language that helps team members filter and focus on what matters most to them. The charts view is where the visual magic really happens. With a single click, you can transform your task list into revealing visual patterns that highlight exactly where your project stands. You'll see how many tasks are not started versus in progress or completed, giving you an immediate sense of momentum. The charts also break down task distribution by bucket and by assigned team member, revealing potential resource imbalances where someone might be overloaded while others have capacity. What makes these visualizations so powerful is that they update in real time as your team progresses through their work. Unlike static reports that are outdated the moment they're created, Planner charts reflect the current reality of your project at all times. This creates a dynamic, always current view of project health that traditional reporting simply can't match. The schedule view adds another critical visual dimension by mapping your tasks onto a calendar. This visualization helps you spot potential timeline conflicts, deadline clusters, and periods where your team might be overextended. Seeing tasks in calendar format makes it much easier to identify realistic delivery dates and manage stakeholder expectations effectively. Beyond improving your own project visibility, these visual tools dramatically enhance team alignment. When everyone can see the same visual representation of project status, it creates what psychologists call a shared mental model. Everyone understands not just their own tasks, but how they fit into the bigger picture. This shared understanding reduces misalignment and helps team members make better decisions about prioritization and resource allocation. The impact of this visual approach extends beyond just better tracking. Teams that implement visual project management typically report fewer surprises, more proactive problem solving, and significantly reduced time spent in status update meetings. Instead of spending valuable meeting time trying to create a shared understanding of where things stand, you can start with that understanding already in place and focus on solving problems and making decisions. Let me share a practical example of how to implement this. Start by adding a planner tab to your main project channel in Teams. Create buckets that represent your project phases or work streams. Add tasks with clear titles, due dates, and assignments. Use the description field to provide context and the checklist feature to break complex tasks into manageable steps. Apply labels consistently to create visual patterns that highlight priorities or categories. Finally, make reviewing the charts view a regular part of your project routine, perhaps at the beginning of team meetings or as part of your personal daily planning. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require any additional software purchases or complex implementation. Planner is already included in your Microsoft Teams subscription, waiting to be leveraged. Within minutes, you can transform a text-heavy, difficult-to-parse project tracking approach into a visual system that makes project status immediately comprehensible to everyone on your team. One particularly effective technique is using the charts view during team meetings. Rather than verbally walking through status updates, simply share your screen showing the planner charts. This creates an immediate visual focus for the conversation and helps highlight the areas that truly need discussion, rather than spending time on tasks that are progressing as expected. Creating self-updating project reports. Visual project tracking transforms your team meetings, but there's still that dreaded weekly task lurking on your calendar, creating the project status report. Have you ever calculated how many hours of your career you've spent manually updating reports that become obsolete almost immediately after sending them? The reality for most project managers is sobering. Each week, they invest significant time gathering data, formatting it into presentable reports, and distributing these updates to stakeholders. By the time these reports reach their audience, the information is often already outdated, creating a perpetual cycle of playing catch-up with reality. This administrative burden doesn't just consume time, it actively prevents project managers from focusing on strategic activities that actually move projects forward. When you're constantly trapped in this reporting cycle, your ability to engage in meaningful work like risk management, team coaching, or strategic planning dramatically diminishes. You become a professional report generator rather than a project leader. This reporting treadmill creates a hidden cost that extends far beyond just the hours spent creating the documents. The consequences of delayed reporting are equally problematic. When decision makers receive outdated information, their choices are based on yesterday's reality rather than today's situation. By the time stakeholders identify an emerging issue in a report, the problem may have already escalated beyond easy resolution. This lag between reality and reporting directly impacts project outcomes, creating a frustrating disconnect between what's happening and what's being communicated. This is where Microsoft Lists enters the picture as your secret weapon. While most Teams users are familiar with channels, chats, and meetings, Lists remains one of the platform's most powerful yet underutilized features for project management. Unlike static reports that capture a moment in time, Lists creates living documents that continuously reflect your project's current state. Microsoft Lists provides robust capabilities within Teams for project reporting. Instead of exporting data to Excel, formatting it in PowerPoint, and emailing it to stakeholders every week, you can create custom lists that automatically track key project metrics and update in real time. This functionality allows you to break free from the reporting hamster wheel and focus on activities that truly add value to your project. Creating a custom list in Teams is straightforward, but incredibly powerful. Start by clicking the plus at the top of any channel to add a new tab, then select Lists. You can choose from templates or build a custom list tailored to your project's specific needs. The beauty of lists is that you can track whatever metrics matter most to your project: task status, budget utilization, timeline adherence, or risk assessments. The real magic happens when you incorporate calculated columns into your lists. These columns automatically perform calculations based on other data in your list, creating dynamic insights without any manual intervention. For example, you can set up a calculated column that automatically computes your remaining budget based on actual expenses, or one that calculates the percentage of tasks completed, giving stakeholders an instant understanding of project progress. Let me walk you through a practical example. Imagine creating a project status list with columns for task name, assigned to due date, status, and priority. With calculated columns, you can automatically determine if tasks are on track, at risk, or overdue based on their due dates and current status. You can even create visual indicators that change color based on these calculations, providing instant visual cues about your project's health. One particularly valuable template in Microsoft Lists is the Issue Tracker. This pre-built template includes fields for logging and tracking project issues, including description, priority, and status. By implementing this template, you ensure that all project issues are documented consistently and tracked effectively. The real power comes when you set up automated alerts using the Automate tab, which can notify relevant team members when new issues are created or when an issue's status changes. This proactive approach to issue management minimizes delays and prevents problems from escalating. The transformation in stakeholder communication is perhaps the most valuable benefit of implementing self-updating project reports. By automating the reporting process, you ensure that stakeholders always have access to the most current project status. This transparency builds trust and eliminates the frustration of outdated information. Stakeholders can check the status whenever they need it, rather than waiting for your next scheduled report. This shift from manual reporting to automated updates enables more timely decision-making. When stakeholders identify an issue or opportunity in your project data, they can respond immediately rather than waiting until the problem has grown or the opportunity has passed. The days of hearing, "Why wasn't I informed about this sooner?" become a thing of the past, as everyone has access to the same up-to-date information. Beyond saving time, self-updating reports fundamentally change your relationship with project data. Rather than spending hours creating reports, you can invest that time in analyzing the information and developing strategic responses to the insights revealed. You transition from report creator to data analyst and strategic advisor, roles that add significantly more value to your projects and organization. Implementing lists for project reporting isn't just about creating a convenient dashboard. It's about establishing a single source of truth for your project. When everyone is looking at the same continuously updated information, team alignment improves dramatically. Discussions shift from debating whose numbers are correct to focusing on what the data means and how to respond effectively. The practical implementation is straightforward. After creating your list, you can add it as a tab in your project's Teams channel, making it immediately accessible to all team members. You can then set up different views of the same list, customizing what each stakeholder sees based on their specific interest and responsibilities. For example, executives might see a high-level summary view focusing on key metrics and milestones, while team members might see a more detailed view of tasks and timelines. For stakeholders who prefer traditional reports, you don't need to abandon lists. You can easily export the current state of your list to Excel or generate a PDF at any time. The difference is that these exports represent real-time data rather than information that took hours to compile manually. Better yet, stakeholders can be trained to generate these exports themselves whenever they need them, further reducing administrative burden on project managers. The impact of this approach extends beyond individual projects. As teams become accustomed to real-time reporting, organizational culture shifts toward greater transparency and more data-driven decision-making. Project managers who implement self-updating reports often find themselves with more time for strategic activities, leading to better project outcomes and enhanced career opportunities. Preventing permission chaos. Transparency revolutionizes project management, but only when you control who sees what and when. Imagine spending hours setting up the perfect project in Teams, only to discover sensitive budget information was accidentally shared with external vendors, or that key team members couldn't access critical files during an urgent deadline. Permission issues rank among the top reasons why Teams projects get derailed, yet they're often overlooked until problems emerge. The challenge with permissions in Microsoft Teams stems from their deceptive simplicity. On the surface, adding someone to a team seems straightforward, but beneath that action lies a complex web of access rights that can either empower your project or completely undermine it. Many project managers discover this complexity the hard way. When team members start complaining they can't find essential documents, or when sensitive information leaks to unintended audiences. Let's look at what's really happening when permission problems arise in Teams projects. In most cases, the root cause isn't technical failure, but a fundamental misalignment between how your project is structured and how your permissions are configured. This disconnect creates friction that ripples through your entire project ecosystem. When engineers can't access technical specifications, designers can't view feedback, or stakeholders see preliminary numbers that weren't meant for wide distribution, your project's momentum grinds to a halt. The consequences extend beyond mere inconvenience. When permission structures don't align with project roles, team members waste valuable time requesting access or searching for workarounds. This creates bottlenecks in your workflow that can seriously impact deadlines. I've seen projects where team members resorted to emailing files outside the team's environment simply because they couldn't navigate the permission maze, completely defeating the purpose of having a centralized collaboration platform. From a security perspective, overly permissive settings create even more serious concerns. Without proper controls, sensitive project information, competitive analysis, financial projections, or client data becomes vulnerable to unauthorized access. This isn't just about internal confidentiality. Depending on your industry, it could have regulatory implications as well. The damage from a single permission misstep can far outweigh any temporary convenience gained from a more open approach. So what's the solution? Creating a deliberate permission strategy tailored to your specific project type. This isn't about locking everything down or opening everything up. It's about thoughtful alignment between project roles and access levels. The most successful Teams projects establish clear permission boundaries from the outset, ensuring team members have appropriate access to perform their duties without compromising security. Let's talk about implementing this in practical terms. First, take a step back and map out your project's information flow. Which team members need access to which resources? Are there natural divisions in your project that suggest different permission levels? This mapping exercise helps identify the permission structure that will support rather than hinder your project's workflow. Once you understand your information flow, private channels become a powerful tool in your permission strategy. These channels restrict access to a specific subset of team members, creating secure spaces for sensitive discussions. For example, you might create a private budget planning channel, visible only to finance stakeholders and project leadership, while keeping technical discussions accessible to the broader team. This targeted approach allows information to flow freely where needed, while maintaining appropriate boundaries. Files present another critical permission challenge. The default behavior in Teams is that all team members can access all files, but this one-size-fits-all approach rarely fits project reality. Instead, use SharePoint's advanced permission settings for more granular control. You can adjust permissions at the library, folder, or even individual file level, ensuring that sensitive documents remain protected while routine materials stay accessible. Guest access requires particularly careful management in project environments. When external collaborators need to participate in your project, precisely define what they can and cannot access. The ideal approach grants guests access only to specific channels relevant to their role rather than the entire team. Additionally, regularly review guest accounts to ensure they're removed when no longer needed. Lingering access presents an unnecessary security risk. Creating permission guardrails doesn't have to mean adding bureaucracy. In fact, a well-designed permission structure actually reduces administrative overhead by preventing the constant stream of access requests that plague poorly structured projects. The key is making permissions intuitive, by aligning them with natural project boundaries that team members easily understand. Consider implementing a role-based approach to streamline permission management. Define standard access profiles for common project roles: contributors, reviewers, approvers, and external partners, and assign them consistently. This creates predictability in your permission structure and makes it easier to onboard new team members with the right access level from day one. Communication about permissions is just as important as the technical configuration. Make sure team members understand where to find different types of information and who to contact if they encounter access issues. This transparency reduces friction and prevents the workarounds that often lead to security vulnerabilities. A simple channel guide pinned to your general channel can prevent countless permission headaches. Regular permission audits should become part of your project management routine. As projects evolve, permission needs change. Team members shift roles, new stakeholders join, and information sensitivity fluctuates. Quarterly reviews ensure your permission structure continues to support rather than hinder your project's progress. Pay special attention to the access rights of team members who have changed roles, as their permission needs likely shifted as well. One particularly effective approach combines deliberate permission design with project templates. Once you've perfected your permission structure for a particular project type, save it as a template for future use. This not only saves setup time, but creates consistency across projects. As a project leader noted in my research, the biggest benefit is that the team is already familiar with the setup and where to go to access the information that they need. What about those situations where you need to quickly provide temporary access? Instead of permanently changing permission structures, consider time-limited sharing links for specific resources. This approach provides immediate access without creating lasting permission changes that might be forgotten later. Just remember to set appropriate expiration dates that align with your project timeline. The most successful Teams projects treat permission design as a strategic activity rather than an administrative afterthought. When permissions align with your project structure, team members spend less time struggling with access issues and more time delivering results. The initial investment in thoughtful permission planning pays dividends throughout your project's lifecycle. Transforming teams into your project command center. Now that your permission strategy is firmly in place, it's time to see the bigger picture of what we're really building. Have you noticed how most organizations still use Teams as just another communication app while juggling 5 or 6 different platforms for actual project work? What if everything your team needs could exist in one digital home base instead? When we started this journey, we were looking at a scattered approach to project management. Files buried in random channels, tasks tracked across multiple tools, and important decisions lost in endless chat threads. But piece by piece, we've been assembling something much more powerful than just a better way to use Teams. We've been creating what I call a project command center. Think about what happens when you bring together everything we've covered into a single cohesive system. You're not just making incremental improvements to your workflow, you're creating a completely different experience for your team. Research shows that this integrated approach transforms Teams from a simple communication tool into a comprehensive project command center that serves as the single digital space where all project elements converge. Let me paint a picture of what this looks like in practice. Imagine logging into Teams and immediately seeing your project dashboard tab with real-time metrics showing exactly where things stand. Your files are logically organized in folders that mirror your project structure, not buried in chat history. Task boards show who's working on what and what's coming next. Meeting notes, decisions, and important updates all live in dedicated channels where everyone can find them instantly. This isn't just convenient. It's transformative for your productivity. The average knowledge worker toggles between different applications more than 300 times per day. That constant context switching doesn't just waste time, it fragments thinking and reduces the quality of work. But when your project lives entirely within Teams, that fragmentation disappears. What makes this approach so powerful is that it creates what psychologists call a cognitive offloading effect. Your brain no longer needs to remember where different pieces of information are stored or how to navigate between systems. Everything follows a consistent logic within a single environment, freeing up mental bandwidth for actual problem solving and creative work. Let's look at the practical impact. When implemented fully, A Teams project command center eliminates the need for separate logins to project management software, file storage systems, communication platforms, and reporting tools. This centralization creates what research identifies as a central source of truth for a project, which means team members never need to search across multiple platforms for information. I worked with a marketing agency that implemented this approach for their client campaigns. Before the change, their average project required team members to use Slack for communication, Asana for tasks, Google Drive for files, and Zoom for meetings. After centralizing everything in Teams, they reported a 34% reduction in time spent searching for information and a 28% increase in on-time deliverables. The impact wasn't just on efficiency. Team satisfaction scores improved dramatically as the frustration of constantly switching contexts disappeared. What's fascinating is how the benefits compound over time. When your files, tasks, and communications all exist in the same environment, natural connections emerge. A conversation about a document can happen right alongside the document itself. A question about a task can be answered with the full context instantly available. These seamless transitions between different aspects of work create a flow state that simply isn't possible in fragmented systems. Another key advantage is what happens to your institutional knowledge. In traditional project setups, critical information gets siloed in individual tools and eventually lost. But in a Teams command center, the entire project history, every decision, file version, and conversation remains searchable and accessible. New team members can get up to speed quickly by exploring the existing project structure rather than relying on incomplete handovers. Let me show you what the complete integration looks like. Your ideal Teams project environment should have a general channel that serves as your project hub with pinned posts for mission-critical information and tabs for your project dashboard. A set of purpose-specific channels organized by workstream or function, each with relevant tabs for the most frequently used resources. Task boards embedded directly in channels where the work happens, so discussion and execution remain connected. File tabs that provide one-click access to properly organized document libraries. Power BI dashboards showing real-time project metrics and KPIs directly within Teams. Automated workflows that post updates to relevant channels when important events occur. Meeting notes that live in the same channels where the pre-meeting and post-meeting discussions happen. The beauty of this setup is that it works for virtually any project type. Whether you're developing software, planning an event, managing a marketing campaign, or coordinating a business transformation, the fundamental structure remains the same. The specific tabs, integrations, and automations will vary based on your needs. But the core principle of bringing everything together in Teams applies universally. I've seen this approach work for teams as small as 3 people and organizations with hundreds of project participants. The key is consistency and intentionality. You can't just throw everything into Teams haphazardly. You need to thoughtfully design your workspace based on how information flows through your project. The most successful implementations start with a template that establishes the basic structure, then evolves based on team feedback. This ensures that your command center remains aligned with how your team actually works rather than forcing people to adapt to a rigid system. What's particularly valuable about this approach is that it doesn't require any additional software purchases if you're already using Microsoft 365. Everything you need is included in your existing subscription. It's just a matter of leveraging the full capabilities of the platform rather than using Teams as glorified chat software. Of course, there are challenges in making this transition. Team members accustomed to their favorite specialized tools may resist consolidating everything in Teams. The solution isn't to force change, but to demonstrate the concrete benefits through small wins. Start with one aspect of project management, perhaps task tracking or meeting notes, and show how much better the experience becomes when it's integrated into your team's workspace. Cultural shifts take time, but the efficiency gains quickly become apparent. When team members experience the difference between hunting for information across multiple systems versus having everything at their fingertips in Teams, the value becomes self-evident. The most compelling reason to create a project command center in Teams isn't just efficiency, it's the quality of work that emerges when people can focus on their actual jobs instead of digital busywork. Creative thinking, problem-solving, and innovation all require mental space that gets consumed by navigating fragmented systems. By implementing a structured approach with integrated tasks, files, communication, and reporting all in one place, you're not just saving time, you're creating the conditions for your team to do their best work. This unified approach enhances transparency, ensures all team members stay consistently informed, and prevents the information silos that derail so many projects. Here's the great news. You already have everything you need to manage projects effectively right within Microsoft Teams. While many organizations spend thousands on specialized project management tools, the research clearly shows that Teams offers a complete, cost-effective solution when used strategically. The key isn't adding more software. It's about thoughtfully implementing what you already have. Start by setting up those purpose-built channels we discussed, then gradually integrate planner, lists, and your communication framework. Remember that successful project management in Teams comes from understanding which features solve your specific challenges. By creating that centralized project hub within a familiar platform, you'll boost productivity while keeping everything accessible to your entire team.